Hey team, Jen here. Welcome to a new term at SNHU and welcome to your first term for some of you who are in this shell. My name is Jen McCullum and I'm a team lead, which means that I am responsible for overseeing about 30 instructors um, in COCE who are teaching online courses in literature or the humanities. And one of my roles is to make sure that instructors are meeting the criteria and the expectations for SNU faculty, and also that they are delivering materials and staying on top of grading and announcements and all of those little particulars that make a class work smoothly every single week. So what that means basically is that you're under surveillance, and that I go into your course at least once every week to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row and that you're performing well. I'm also a touchstone for you if you have any concerns, if you have any aspects of online teaching that you'd like to discuss. I am definitely here to hear that. I also run our team shell, which is a discussion forum where we can discuss pretty much anything and build community. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that this term. I like to make videos as a part of all of my weekly announcements, not only for my role as a team lead at SNHU, but also as an instructor in SNHU. I teach a couple courses here, including Victorian literature and global literature at the graduate level. So I always use these weekly overview videos as a way to reflect on weeks that came before, as a way to note issues that need attention in the current week, and to also prompt you for action in the coming week. So this video is very important and I hope that you will watch them every week. This week there are actually quite a few things that I want to talk about, so brace yourself, settle down, wrap yourself in a nice warm blanket, grab a cup of hot cocoa, and prepare for a couple things. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is the importance of the weekly announcement. And I want to kind of disambiguate what a weekly announcement should do, what it shouldn't do, and when the announcement should be posted. I also want to, in that same topic, I want to talk about, I'm actually just making a note here, what kind of information is better disseminated in the forums or even in email. So really honing in on what that announcement is supposed to do and how you can do it well. The second thing that I wanted to address is the importance of outlining your expectations for students in the first week or the second week of the course. How to do that, why you should do that, and we can have some discussion about that, I hope, in the forums this week as well. I also want to touch on the issue of self-plagiarism and how important it is for instructors to bring up the reality of self-plagiarism to their students early in the term. That way it takes care of any issues that may arise and probably will arise for you as you go on in the term. And finally, I wanted to discuss how to add your signature touch to courses that are boxed. We certainly don't want to feel like we are machines teaching these courses. So how do you add personal touches without infringing on the policies of SNHU? That's a lot of stuff. So I wanted to start with what I think is probably the most important aspect of our courses. I think that the announcement section, it's the entry point for our students. It's the first thing that they see when they log into the courses. I want to talk about the function of these announcements. The function of the announcements are numerous. Firstly, as we said, it's the entry point into the course. It gives students a sense of your personality. So first and foremost, it's very important that these announcements are personable, that you let your tone, your teaching persona tone, whatever that may be, come through in these weekly announcements, and that there's a bit of consistency there in tone. So if you're playful, if you're serious, let that come out in your announcement. Students really enjoy seeing a professor, working with a professor who can be humanistic in her approach. So whatever that looks like for you, being humanistic really runs the gamut. So whatever that looks like for you, think about cultivating a particular personality for your persona through your announcements. That's very important. The second thing that your announcement should do is you want to give students a sense of reflection. So you want to use the announcement section as a place where you can look back to the previous week or weeks. Maybe honing in on things that you've noticed, congratulating students, and also presenting some challenges that you've noticed. You want to show some reflection to also help students see how modules build upon each other. That's extremely important in an online course because sometimes modules can feel like they're floating in thin air, and just a little bit of reflection can help students to see the scaffolding that we're doing to lead students toward a goal. The third thing that announcements should do is, obviously, I think announcements should give students an overview of what is coming up that week in terms of which deliverables are due. Now, that doesn't mean that your announcement should be a to-do list. You know, you're going to have discussion board 1, you're going to have workshop 1, and you're going to have response paper 1. That doesn't function well for students because they can simply go into the Blackboard interface and find the to-do list themselves. What I mean by giving them an overview of the week instead is that you should hone in on maybe 1 or 2 deliverables. Give them some tips for success. How are they going to accomplish that deliverable well? What are some things that they should do? What are some things that they should avoid? Giving them some insights, some guidelines that extend far beyond the basic language that you can find in the deliverable prompt. So they want to see that you're being engaged with that overview. You might offer some options for pacing themselves through the week. You might offer them options of what they should do first, what they should save for last. So there are a lot of different shapes that the weekly overview could take, but just copying and pasting a list of what's due is not really a weekly overview. It's not doing anything for students. Students want to see that you are engaging in that material, and so do I. The fourth thing that your announcement should do is you want to clearly synthesize what you're doing this week with what is coming up in the next week. So students want to see that there's a reason for what they're doing, what they're being asked to do. I'm constantly iterating the stakes of the major deliverables, particularly any group work. If you have any group work in your course, like a workshop or a wiki, students are constantly scrutinizing those deliverables. Like, why am I asked to do this? Why do I need to work on this? It's a daunting assignment to do. So honing in on the stakes, right? Showing that things are building on previous deliverables and deliverables to come can be really helpful. The next thing that your announcement can do is offer additional resources for students who are interested in learning more. Now, resources can really be a number of things. It could be links to websites that you think are helpful. It could be an embedded YouTube video. It could be an embedded video of you. It could be a podcast. It could be a funny comic book image. It really can it can be a clip from this week's Walking Dead or whatever. So it can really run the gamut. But offering resources is helpful for students. I want to pause on that though, and I want to make sure that we are differentiating between providing resources for students that are quick and easy and accessible versus using the announcement section as a place to offer lecture style notes on the module content or supplementing the module content materials with your own ideas. That is not something that really truly belongs in the announcement section. Some instructors, particularly in courses where there's heavy theory, will oftentimes use the announcement section as a place to disambiguate large-scale ideas that students struggle with. So for example, if you're teaching a section on deconstruction, you might want to use the announcement section as a place where you just give your own rendition of deconstruction, what it means, definitions, how to approach it. Don't do that in the announcement section. It doesn't belong there. If you feel the need to supplement module content, you can do a number of other things that will probably work better. It's very important that the announcements function in a very particular way and that students can count on that function every week. Now, if you want to supplement lecture with your own lecture, that's absolutely fine. There are a couple better ways that you can do it rather than inserting it in the announcement section. One thing that I like to do is you can add a video or a link directly under the module reading. So you can just add your own section there where you can say, here's my overview to supplement the module overview. It's there, it's right where they're reading the module, so easy. Another thing you can do is you could do that as an email. Send it out to your course participants as an email and say, this is a supplementary overview of deconstruction because I know you guys are struggling with it. You could also designate a particular section of the forums where you have supplementary lectures or lecture type information where students can easily access that if they're interested in it. So think about whether or not the material that you're putting in the announcement functions there or whether it would function better somewhere else. So that's what I want you to keep in mind. Okay. If you are trying to add a little bit of a signature touch to your course, the announcements is one of those places where you can do that. I've seen instructors add colorful images or even use different fonts. I do videos. I've seen a couple other instructors do that. There's always ways to add that element into your course. Announcements is a great place. The grade book is another place. And of course, the forums is another place. In later weeks, we'll really hone in on each of those areas, focusing on the grade book and the discussion forum. But for now, think about this course as a living thing, that you are interacting with living people, and that you need to kind of bring life, breathe life into the facets that you can. The next thing that I want to talk about today is outlining your expectations for students. One of the most important things in the first couple weeks of the course is that students understand what your value system is. When you go into grade work or when you go into the discussion forum, it's one thing to read a stagnant rubric. The rubric, it's not alive, right? It seems kind of like a dead document. It's very important to recognize what you value in student writing, what you value in academic inquiry. It's not, if you, for example, are a real stickler for argumentation, that's something that I'm a real stickler for. I actually tell students in the beginning that I don't care at all if they write to the prompt for the discussion forum for my graduate students, because I want to see them making the moves of the academic genre in the forums through contextualization. I'm a stickler for contextualization and I'm a stickler for argumentation. In the very first week, I post a video that's like 15 minutes long where I outline the things that I care about the most. If students can have a very clear sense about what you value most and why, then they feel like they're more prepared to deliver that or to start processing, right, what that means for them. What does argumentation mean for them? Do they agree with you? Do they disagree with you? How are they going to meet those standards to satisfy your needs as an instructor? I feel that that's a very important thing because every instructor has a different value system, whether or not they realize that. And the more we can articulate to students where we're coming from, the more successful they're going to feel. Although I will say in the first week, most of my students feel incredibly, incredibly overwhelmed. And I love that. That's what I want. I want them to feel stressed out, overwhelmed. I want them to feel drowning. I want them to feel like they're just completely uncomfortable. That's my goal for students in the first week or two. I think that there's a pedagogical value to making students feel that way in the first couple weeks. I'd love to talk more about it, but we might save that instead for the forums if you want to unpack that a little bit more. What are the politics of discomfort? And how can we use that to our advantage as instructors, particularly in the online environment? It just gets me so excited. The final thing I want to talk about is please do make some reference to self-plagiarism in your courses. Almost unanimously, every instructor has one student who will reuse essays that she either wrote for the same course which she failed in the past or didn't complete, or will submit. I've seen students submit term papers from other courses for this, the course that they're in. According to MLA, self-plagiarism is not acceptable. It is a form of straight-up plagiarism. Most graduate students don't know that. In fact, most instructors don't know that. So I want you to know that right now from day one. Self-plagiarism is not acceptable in any form at SNHU. So let your students know that right off the cuff. That way, Jimmy's not planning on using this essay for Love in the Time of Cholera because he wrote it in another course and he's all set and he's already thinking, God, that's going to be an easy week for me, right? Let students know straight up why self-plagiarism is considered hardcore plagiarism and why you will report that student if he or she plagiarizes. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful first week. And I hope that I've made you feel uncomfortable and overwhelmed. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.